Hi students, today we're going to talk about absolute value special cases. We're going to talk about solving equations and inequalities. And if you understand the concept behind absolute value, it really helps you logically be able to figure out what you're trying to find and what these special cases might be. So remember that when we find the absolute value of a quantity, it will always give you a positive value. So because of that, this x right here, the answer to this x, could be 4 or it could be -4. Because when I take the absolute value of 4 and -4, it will come out to a +4. So remember, absolute value means the distance from 0. Both of these are 4 spaces away from 0, and therefore when we take the absolute value, it will come out to 4. So that's the basic concept behind what we've been doing out with absolute value. Okay, let me give you our first special case. So let's say you're solving away and you have isolated it down to be some quantity, absolute value equals a negative number, okay? And we could have more operations in here. It could be like a +1 or a -1 or a 2x + 1. It doesn't matter what's in here, okay? Because we know that some quantity is going to be in here. And after we take the absolute value of this quantity, it can never equal a negative number. It's impossible because we know that when we take the absolute value, it has to give us a positive value. So whenever you have an absolute value that has been isolated equal to a negative value, you will therefore have no solution. There is no number I can plug in here for x that will get equal to -3. So that's special case number 1. Special case number 2. Let's say we have the absolute value of some quantity and it is greater than a negative number, some negative number, okay? So let's again think about this concept. If I'm taking the absolute value of some quantity, it's always going to give me a positive number, right? This has to be positive. So some positive number, will it be greater than a -3 or any negative number for that matter? Absolutely. All numbers are greater than any negative number. So anytime you end up with absolute value is greater than, or you could say greater than or equal to any negative value, this will always be all real numbers. It doesn't matter what number is in here for x. Any number, I could pick a 2, a -10. If I plug in -10, look, when I take the absolute value, it's still going to be greater than -3. So any quantity that I put in, any real number I put in here, will always be greater than a negative number. Okay? That's scenario number 2. Last scenario. Very similar. We have some quantity that we are taking the absolute value of. This time it is less than a negative number. Okay, so I'm switching the scenario around. So now we have some quantity that we are taking the absolute value of, which will give us a positive value. Can this positive value ever be less than a negative number? Can a positive number ever be less than a negative number? No, that doesn't make any sense. So there is no solution to this equation. There is no number I can choose to plug in for x here that will make it less than any negative number. So those are the 3 possible scenarios that you could come up with. And so as you're solving equations, I want to keep this in mind because this comes up as you're solving, and sometimes you don't need to go any farther. You just need to stop once you've isolated it and you have a negative number over here. Stop and decide what you need to do, okay? Because it either is going to be no solution if an absolute is equal to a negative number. If it's greater than, you can stop and say all real numbers. Or if it's less than, you can say no solution. Anytime you have a quantity that has positive numbers here, you will continue to solve your regular, like you would algebraically as we've been doing before. I just wanted you to note that when you isolate it, stop and make this choice. Do I need to keep solving, or is this one of my special cases? So be on the lookout for those and keep practicing, and it'll start to make more and more sense. Good luck, everyone.